Krishna. Blew it, sorry. 3. And I have to have the purports also. 15, 21. Om Ajnanatimarandasya Gnanana Salakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Reading from the Bhagavad Gita as it is, 3rd chapter, text 34. Indriyas yendriyas yasyarte raga dveso vyavastito tayor navasama gachet to yasya paripantino. There are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. One should not come under the control of such attachment and aversion, because they're stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Purport. Those who are in Krishna consciousness are naturally reluctant to engage in material sense gratification, but those who are not in such consciousness should follow the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures. Unrestricted sense enjoyment is the cause of material engagement, but one who follows the rules and regulations of the revealed scriptures does not become entangled by the sense objects. For example, sex enjoyment is a necessity for the conditioned soul, and sex enjoyment is allowed under the license of marriage ties. According to scriptural injunctions, one is forbidden to engage in sex relationship with any other woman other than one's wife. All other women are to be considered as one's mother, but in spite of such injunction, a man is still inclined to have sex relationships with other women. These propensities are to be curbed, otherwise there will be stumbling blocks on the path of self-realization. Okay. Yeah, well, when I read the Bhagavad Gita, I'm seeing that the Bhagavad Gita is beginning with Arjuna, who is very much overwhelmed by material circumstances and who needs a process of regulation to rise above that. Arjuna is swept up by the waves of material existence. He's very emotionally involved with his family, with so many things that are happening. And Arjuna is in this way not able to think clear, and Arjuna needs to purify his existence. Therefore, Arjuna needs a process of regulated activities that are purifying him. And in this way, Arjuna is gradually becoming uplifted. And gradually, his entire way of life is changing. His natural attachment to Krishna is again coming to the foreground, and that is what happens with the devotee. So this stage of developing some attachment to Krishna is very natural. But at one point, we find that we have attachment to both, attachment to Krishna and attachment to matter and to material life. And yeah, that's of course where we have to somehow or other invest more on the spiritual side, so that we can rise above this material side of us. That is the idea. So, you know, the earlier chapters of the Bhagavad Gita are all dealing with how to purify ourselves, how to regulate our activities. And that's basically what is going on, right, in the third chapter also. Again, I lost the verse, but 1 second, it will be back. 33, 34. Yeah, there are principles to regulate attachment and aversion pertaining to the senses and their objects. So it's all about, you know, regulation. When Prabhupada started, that was he was able to inspire that in people, and it was also a time when hippies had just sort of abandoned all the rules and regulations of society in general. Right? They were like, if there was a rule, it had to be broken. If there was a taboo, it had to be given up. And so in that hippie movement, young people would turn away from their parents, try to live without money, try and live closer to nature, try just live in nature and with nature, and turn away from the whole artificial society that we were part of, and all that made sense. I mean, even now, you know, even now that we are in the middle of some sort of situation, right? When I look at the picture of what you're doing there, well, then things are quite different than it is here where I am. I'm in South Africa, which is like one of the places with the hardest lockdown in the world, you know? And so many people in one space on a camera, that would be absolutely impossible. If we do anything, meeting in a group, it's secretly and it cannot be filmed because it's forbidden. Yeah, it's like extremely rigid. So I'm amazed to see how it is nice, looks nice. Anyhow, we so in that hippie era, when the young people were breaking away, it seemed to be. I was part of that generation, therefore I can see how I perceived it. You know, it seemed to be that we were on the path of enlightenment. It seemed to be that by sleeping on cardboard boxes on the street or under a bridge, that we were actually very renounced. And in one sense, there was a sadhu mood, right? And it was about really going back to our roots. But yeah, for many people, that also got stuck in drugs, or got stuck in sex, or got stuck in so many things. Again, we found that maybe we were not bound by the tie around our neck that we would wear in an office, but we were still bound by the chain of sex life. We were still bound by the more basic elements in life. These things are not they don't go away. And yes, what does that make us? Right? What does that make us? When sex comes to the foreground in our life, what does that make us? That forces us to do so many things just to keep the situation favorable for sexual activity. So that is a big issue in the material world, sexuality. Therefore, when that can be at least regulated, that's very good. Because then so much of one's mental energy is free for the glorification of Krishna. Regulation, I don't know how much capacity we have for regulation. It's difficult. Although in the Western world, when Prabhupada started, suddenly people, in the beginning it was quite wild, but then gradually more and more regulation came in, and for some time we saw really some fanaticism in following rules and regulations. But then it collapsed. And these days, it's almost like speaking to the wall. If you're talking about regulation, you kind of feel like, is it relating to the people? Does this make sense? Is this what people want? Is this what they want to hear about regulation? Or is it that really they're looking for inspiration? And so the time is more driven by inspiration than about regulation. That is the fact. But yeah, as I said, some fundamental issues remain, and that is there. I have been spending time discussing something on a totally different wavelength. I have been talking I've been talking about Lord Chaitanya every day and thinking about Lord Chaitanya. And then I started already when I was still in New York, leading up to Gaur Purnim. And then I was every day giving lectures on Chaitanya Charitamrita for some time. And and then I was sort of leading up to the appearance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and of the preaching activities of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when I started again in South Africa, this time online, then I started contemplating on more the later pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But yeah, then you kind of quickly wind up with the internal purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance and with the ecstasies of Lord Chaitanya, and Lord Chaitanya being in the mood of Radharani. And so the last 2 days, I'm sort of turned away from that, and I I gave today a lecture about Lord Chaitanya and the Bhagavad Gita, right? And the Bhagavad Gita, the place the Bhagavad Gita takes in the movement of Lord Chaitanya. And then if we look at in various points in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the Bhagavad Gita appears, and also in the discussion between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Rai, then known as the Ramananda Samvat. So the Ramananda Samvat, where Ramananda is speaking and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is hearing and asking questions. In the Ramananda Samvat, the first question is a quote, or the first point is a quote from the Vishnu Purana, which is establishing that one must please the Supreme Lord by performing the duties of Varna Ashram. Right? So, well, here you go. That's regulation, right? Varna Ashram is the way of life about prescribed duty. Once I looked in a book about human rights, and it spoke about India, and it said in India you can't really speak of human right because the people, they have a different mentality. In India, the mood is not, the Western mood is, what is my right? And the Indian mood is, what is my duty? Yeah? That's because this Vedic culture for so many years, and then strong Brahmanism have created this whole sense of duty, duty, duty. So, okay, so Varnashram is very much that culture. What is my duty? Lord Chaitanya said, no, that is external. And then he goes on, Ramananda Roy goes on to the verse, Yat karosi, yat asnasi, yat juhusi, dadasi, yat, whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever austerity perform, whatever you do it as an offering to me. And Lord Chaitanya said, no, that's still external. And it is, because it's about what you're doing, not about what's happening in the heart. So then he says, no, one should. Then Ramananda Roy continues, and he continues with Sarva Dharmam Parichayama Mekam Saranam Braja Aham Tam Sarva Papevyo Mokshayashyami Masuchaha. Then he says, yeah, give up all these duties of Dharma. Give up all these duties of focusing on all your external duties. Just surrender to Krishna and just start acting for the pleasure of Krishna. But Lord Chaitanya says, no, there is more. Then Ramananda Roy quotes Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma Nakang Sati Nasosati. He starts to explain that Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma. He says you just have to first be on the transcendental platform, that you just detach from the body. Otherwise, how can you really get absorbed in your bhakti? If you so much identify with the pushings of the senses and the body, then it's difficult to actually perform your bhakti, because you constantly be distracted. Therefore, Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, first come to that level. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is still not satisfied. And then we come to giving that up, jnana, priyasam udapasya, namante eva, jivanti sammukaritam, sthanam sthita shrutikatan tam vanamanabir. So then we're going to the 11th canto of Shrimad Bhagavatam, where we're basically giving up all these pursuits of jnana also, and just really act only for the practice, for the pleasure of Krishna, but that we can practice that from whatever position we are in. So no need to externally make any changes. Just wherever we are, let us just dedicate everything to the pleasure of Krishna. Yeah. And then he goes through the various rasas and so on. So we see that the Bhagavad Gita in this discussion with Ramananda Rai is it is there in the beginning. It's the foundation. And it's true. I mean, Varna Ashram has its relevance to us, at least to an extent. Right? We may not be rigid traditionalists, and some may be more, and some may be less. That depends. But Varna Ashram has some relevance to us. But at the same time, so it's not that it's rejected by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is part of our spiritual life. It's there in the Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna is told, Chatuvarna maya sristam gunakarma vibhagrasa. I've created these 4 classes, so you take shelter of that. But there is more. And then we come, oh, all right, start working for Krishna. Do something for Krishna. It's nice, you know, now you've sort of given yourself a new identity. Now we have taken on the Hare Krishna identity. Very good. But what are we going to do for Krishna? So it's okay, but to just take on an external Hare Krishna identity, that is nice. We're part of a club. We wear neck beads. We say Haribol. We do all these things we're doing. We're sitting on the floor and so on. But that's all external. Yes. What are we really doing for Krishna? So do something for Krishna. But then comes an internal change. Now we have to become detached. Now we have to become detached from matter, from the body, to be really able to serve. And then, yes, then let us just give up this whole Varnashram idea altogether, Sarvadharma Parichaya, and then let us just fully engage in the service of the Lord, wholeheartedly. And then, so in this way we see how step by step we are meant to progress. Sradharatir bhaktir anukramisyati, from faith to developing attachment, and then to pure devotional service. So we are all very different. And Prabhupada is very interesting because Prabhupada was able to attract all kinds of people, very different people that not necessarily would be able to be attracted to each other. They're still attracted to Prabhupada. And so now we are different, but still it is about purity. And how we want to realize that purity, that's up to us. That is something we can figure out. Purity is coming automatically from associating with Krishna, either Krishna or the Tadiya, Krishna directly, or all things that are related to Krishna, devotees, the spiritual master, holy places, holy items, all Tadiya. So, I was so over the years, I've gone into, when I look at regulation and regulative principles, I've personally gone through many changes. I'm not the same like I was in 1980. Yeah. in 1980, I would be very rigid about temple programs, I would not sleep more than 6 hours. I would calculate it. If I had 17 minutes left, then I could take a nap of 17 minutes, but I would not. 6 hours, that was it. That was the absolute cutoff point. Now I don't worry so much about that. Sometimes I sleep less, sometimes I sleep more, as I feel. I've become much more natural. But of course, also, and naturalness is something that I value, because naturalness is something that that sustains me. If I have to live an external life governed by a role that I have to play, and that is not relating to my nature, then I find that that difficult. Now, so Kavi Karnapur, in his Chaitanya Chandrodoy Natak, is bringing up the topic of naturalness, but he puts it in a context of purified naturalness. He said, and of course, Bhagavad Gita gives us higher nature, lower nature, and so on. So yes, naturalness has to be there, but it has to be the higher nature. We have to rise above, we have to conquer that lower nature. But then it's very nice to be more natural in one's Krishna consciousness. Vedic culture, Varnashram had its nice features. A Brahmin was free to go where he decided. He was above the law, but he had himself. He was confining himself by living according to scripture. A Vaishnava is spontaneous in at least in a mature stage. A mature Vaishnava can be spontaneous in his service, more spontaneous than a Brahmana. But of course, a Vaishnava must also guard against the lower nature and the influence of Maya and so on. So our movement these days has taken on a much more spontaneous form than it used to have. And in a way, I welcome that. I myself, I also, I see it around me, but I also see it within myself. I also need that. I need that. Yes, I follow regulation. I follow my vows. I follow my vows of initiation. And I follow a certain sadhana, a certain pattern, because it makes it easier to do so. But at the same time, I have my own program also. I'm not so much partaking in temple programs now like I used to. I design my own Krishna consciousness. This morning, I woke up early and I was reading. I read until from about maybe 4:30 till 6. Right? I just read because my days are quite kind of well, I'm not traveling, so there's more routine when you're in one place. So I'm more in a routine now, and so my days are more predictable in this time of lockdown. Here, no one can go out on the street unless you get an official document from the government. Right? You cannot be out. It's just not, no question. And and there's like serious arrests being made. Here you have to pay, like, if you don't wear a mask on the street, if you have a permit to go out, then you can, if you don't wear a mask, then you are up for 20,000 Rand fine or 6 months jail, and you get a criminal record. It's like, anyway, so I was thinking to myself, how long is this thing gonna last? You know what I mean? So at times like that, when you ask the how long questions, then you think of astrology and you start to look a bit at what do the stars say? I even thought, what does the tarot card say? And I pulled the tarot card, and it was the Hermit. I got the Hermit. I said, okay, I can see where it's going. Yes, the Hermit. So anyhow, we can see Krishna behind everything, and we can see how Krishna is making a plan for us. And these days, spiritual life is much less a fight than it used to be. When I used to live with the regulative principles, it was a big fight. But now, spiritual life is not a fight. Now, it's more, it's just nice, Krishna, and in various ways to preoccupy myself with Krishna, use my creativity where I can, and in some ways, I like to be simple. I like to keep it a little simple. Many things I don't need to do. I'm okay. So actually, I find this phase of life in that way quite pleasant. Right? In terms of Krishna consciousness. And I see, like, as I'm getting some maturity, I am more peaceful internally. When I was younger, more, sometimes more driven, sometimes more frustrated. Now, it's okay. I'm not so frustrated. A little bit about the lockdown. I wish I could get out of this place. But what can you do? The tarot card says Hermit, so that's what it is. Hermit it's going to be for a while. That was quite clear. And yes. So then I'm making something good of it. And yes, it is also nice. It is nice to take time to think. It is nice to not be so much running around. It is nice to at least every day spend some substantial time thinking about scripture. I'm trying to basically chant in the morning and study, and then I may rest a bit. Then I give a lecture middle of the day, and then chant some more, then communicate, and well, do some zoom a bit here and zoom a bit there, and you know, and some Instagram and some this and that. And of course, I make it a point to be outside, because I'm quite convinced that it's the sun that's going to save us, if anything, right? We got to be out in the sun. The sun, of course, is the planet for health. So I invest in that, in getting sun as much as whenever it's there. Last 2 days, no sun here. Ugh. But, you know, it still looks light outside in Germany, huh? Is it? Is it still light outside? Yeah, I think so. I look at the window. Yeah, summertime is, yeah. God, here it's been dark for hours and hours. It's like at 5 o'clock, since 5 o'clock it's been dark. It's 3 hours, 5:15, it gets dark. So it's like 2.5 hours of darkness already. It's like different experience. Anyway, so I think I've sort of a conclusion is that regulation, yes, as is explained here in the Bhagavad Gita, but as Lord Chaitanya said, that is external. And Ramananda Roy was offering deeper levels of involvement and of internal involvement, because just on regulation alone, one cannot live for a long time. So there's really a need to fill that in and to find a taste in Krishna consciousness, and to follow that taste, and to in this way become more peaceful. And then there's always a bit of austerity. What can we do? That's the material energy. Franka Engel, to everyone. There was something at the bottom, but I did something now. Where is the Zoom app? Here. Okay. So I can't see the questions, but if anyone has questions, or then maybe this is a good time.
Yeah, so I will read the questions, and whoever has a question can put it in the chat.
Yeah. I stand up 1 minute to get a bottle of water because my bottle is empty. 1 sec. Hey.
But you can hear.
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay. So I read the first question. How do I know if a situation is a test which requires me to actively make a decision or a change, or is Krishna's arrangement that requires me to tolerate it?
You know, the Krishna consciousness is not a solution to for people who like instant answers. You know, just like some people like instant coffee, and some other people like instant answers. And instant answers is just, you know, you open the jar of Krishna consciousness and all the answers are there, and it's like that. No, we have to think about it. We have to still use our intelligence and think deeply about life. So is this a situation which I should tolerate, or is this a situation where I should make a change? Well, one should always look at it like the short-term goal and the long-term goal. And how much is this present situation contributing to my long-term goal? So everyone should have a clear understanding as to what is my short-term goal, what is my long-term goal. And accordingly, we make a decision. Now, if that becomes, if we still don't know what to do, then it becomes time to discuss it with the Vaishnavas. If one spiritual master is there, one can discuss it with the spiritual master. Or with the Vaishnavas. Krishna speaks through the mouth of the Vaishnavas. Some people, they, oh gosh, when you talk, the mucus comes up. This is I just had another Zoom call from 5:30 till 5 to 7, and then this one. So I've been Zooming quite a bit. I'm zooming around. So anyway, your question is, if you're looking for an answer, look, and you can't figure it out yourself between considering the long-term and the short-term goals, then discuss with the Vaishnavas. If still not, when you're not sure, then no need to do anything. Right? Then wait a little bit until you're more sure. If you're by nature a completely indecisive person, some people, they just can't take a decision about anything. And they just get so mental. Then in the end, make a choice, do something, set a date, set okay, I give myself 3 days, and on the 3rd day, I'm going to make a decision. Sometimes we have to give ourselves a deadline if we cannot make decisions. Someone was always flipping a coin. There was this one devotee, not to mention names, but whenever he was around, just flipping a coin all the time. Some others, yesterday we were talking about this, and that some people are just doing a random verse from a book, right? And look for an answer in that. So we're talking about this yesterday, and then and it was about whether to travel or not, right? Someone was bringing it up and said, well, we'll ask the oracle. And I just blindly scrolled the whole Veda base on my WhatsApp, and it was spinning, and then boom, I stopped it with my finger, and then without looking, I opened up something, and it opened up in Hari Sori's diary, and it opened up with with the story of Prabhupada arriving in Australia, and as Prabhupada was arriving, the Australian customs, they were very tough. Prabhupada had, when you come into Australia, you have to fill in a form and declare, whatever you're bringing into Australia. And Prabhupada had declared a suitcase, that he had a suitcase. So because he had the suitcase, they wanted him to stay for the suitcase. Hari Sori wanted Prabhupada to go. So Hari Sori was like arguing with this officer, and the officer said, no, he has to stay. I said, he's 82 years old, he's 80 years old, he has traveled so much, it's 26 hours, he's tired, he needs to rest, please let him go. And said, no, 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 no. So it was just no. There was no question. It was like totally a situation which wasn't moving forward, right? So now this was in the question, whether to go or whether to not move. So the first part of the answer was no, don't move, right? That was clear. But then something happened. Then, outside, there was this crazy kirtan party going on, right? And the devotees were going, like they knew Prabhupada was in there and they knew he had landed, but he couldn't get out. So they were like having this big kirtan and the whole airport was upside down. And so then finally a policeman comes up and he just, he hears the whole discussion that Prabhupada couldn't go. And then the policeman says, well, if we let him go, then will that stop? Will that noise stop? And then, and Hari Suri said, yes. So then police said, okay, he can go. So Prabhupada went, and the noise did stop because they went into a VIP lounge and Prabhupada gave a talk, to the devotees. And then Hari Suri was alone with the suitcase. And then the customs opened up the suitcase, and then this cockroach jumped out of the suitcase. Then they, alarm, quarantine, and they pressed the alarm button, lights start flashing, sirens went off. Two guys came running with spray cans. They got the cockroach, bang, smashed the cockroach. Then they emptied out the 2 spray cans in the suitcase, sipped it back up, and said, you can go, sir. Anyway, I think Krishna told me to travel. What do you think? And I think I should go. And I think when I travel, I think I should go to Germany. That's my plan. But it's not so easy. For now, I'm thinking of getting a boat. You know what I mean? I'm a sailor from Holland, so I'm thinking of sailing. Sailing down to Europe. Someone says I should come to Mauritius. Yeah, but then I get stuck on an island. I'll come to Mauritius a little later.
Okay, are you ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing so personally. You mentioned that you became more peaceful internally in time. What are some main insights that you have made that have made you more peaceful?
Well, I guess for most, I am doing what I like. Right? I'm doing also things I don't like. That's not there, but I do many things that I actually like. That I have my share of kirtan, which I like. I have. I can spend time with books, which I like. I'm dealing more with people than with things, There is some management in my life which just, even when I want to give it up, then my superiors, they don't want me to give it up. So, okay, I have some management in my life, but and what to do. Some karma there. But over a whole, I found in Krishna consciousness a situation where I want to be, where I do what I want to do. And then there are austerities, the austerities of the world. So what can I do about that? The austerities of the world, you know. Those you have to swallow. Like this whole virus trip. Yeah, it's have to swallow whatever comes of it. But maybe something interesting will come of it. Maybe, you know, I mean, you can see they're having a hard time maintaining slaughterhouses right now. They're having a hard time here in South Africa. When they allow alcohol to be used, then they need 5,000 more hospital beds per month, and therefore they don't allow any alcohol. Just the whole place is dry, no alcohol. They don't even allow cigarettes right now, because people have the habit of buying a cigarette and sharing the cigarette, and also putting dope in it and so on, and sharing that, right? So no cigarettes and no alcohol. Of course, it's a black market, but you know, still. So who knows what will happen? Maybe it will become interesting. So maybe people will actually have to find a less artificial way of life. That could happen. So I find it interesting times, although I'm a little bored at the moment in terms of lockdown. You know, it's a bit boring, this lockdown stuff. So I think everyone should find in their Krishna consciousness a natural situation, and then be Krishna conscious in that natural situation. And then, of course, there is something like do something for Prabhupada, right? Make a contribution to repay Srila Prabhupada. Don't just use the Hare Krishna movement to sustain your own Krishna consciousness, but make a contribution for Srila Prabhupada and for Lord Chaitanya, for his mission, and for making the whole world create Krishna conscious. Okay.
Yeah, there's a few more questions.
Yeah, no problem. From my side, it's okay. At 8:30, we have a announcement from the president of the country, which I want to watch because I hope there's going to be some good news. I think I should. It's under the circumstances. I'm interested what he has to say.
Okay, so one question is, thank you for being with us. Do you have a tip to get taste without devotee association?
How about some Mahaprasadam? I mean, like, that's a taste, you know. Yeah, taste is there. Go into Shastra. Go into, in other words, we're all forced to do some things that we usually don't have time for. All that devotee association is also consuming all our time. Yeah. Of course, I spend a bit too much time on these electronics now. God, yeah, yeah. You're laughing.
Yeah, that's true, Maharaj. Because if we don't use the electronic, then we cannot associate with other devotees.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. So the electronics is right now the only way to really reach out to many devotees, and so it's a little sterile in a way, but it's also interesting how quickly we can reach so many people. Like here I am talking and I'm reaching people from, I saw Mauritius, I saw Germany is there, of course, I see Holland, I saw New Jersey, and you know, I think, and there may be people from Czech, see, there are people from Czech, Mexico, wow, Bangladesh, South Africa is there, London, Australia is there, Bulgaria is there, Newcastle, UK, yeah, Hungary, Croatia, Italy, Serbia, Planet Earth, Vrindavan, Leicester, UK. Yeah, so it is like New Vrindavan. Wow. So we're all over the place. I mean, that is something that we never, I mean, that's really the discovery of the day, right? It's New Jersey, USA. So it is also good that we can in this way connect. Sweden is there also. Yeah, so I'm very happy. Lincoln, UK, yeah. So I'm very happy that we can just do this, connect in this way, because there is some substance to it. It's not just, what shall I say? It's not just wasting time. It is actually, there is substance in this. So anyone else, Johnny Time?
One question is, which topic would you advise to inspire the people which come to a little Bhagavad Gita class, a lesson at my place? How can I bring them the Maha Mantra closer?
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, I guess you have the Bhagavad Gita and they come for that. And there's the Maha Mantra. And then in between are their lives. And I think you have to make your knowledge from the Gita relevant to them. I don't think we should give a lecture as if we're sitting in a temple and, you know, and necessarily take turns all in reciting the verse and then going word for word and then so on. And we could do that. And some people will really like that. But if you do that, I think your group will be small. And I think with that smaller group, you can make a lot of progress. So if that's what you want, a small group, and then go in a very traditional way. If you want a broader group, then look at, here's the Bhagavad Gita, here is the holy name, you want people to just get deeply absorbed in chanting, and here are their lives. And now how do I make this knowledge relevant to their lives? Then you'll be able to reach people who otherwise might not just take up the Bhagavad Gita or stay with the Bhagavad Gita, if you make it more relevant to their lives. I'm also trying to do that. If I would have given this lecture in 1980, it would have been a different lecture, because there really was a very different mood. A very, very different mood. People looked very different, and I've spoken about that, how we were all out on traveling Sankirtan, and we were all shaved up, and we had wigs, right? Because, you know, yeah, you had to be shaved up, there's no question, but you needed hair on Sankirtan. So we had wigs, and then we'd meet in some place in a big Sankirtan meeting, and then we'd all dress up fully in devotional outfit, and that we did every day. every day. We'd stay in a motel. It was winter and it was so cold that they allowed us to stay in a motel, but we only were allowed to stay in one room. So they had like 4 Sankirtan parties, 4 vans, all staying in one room. So one party booked a room and then the others sneaked in at night. But we had to dress up fully. We put all the beds vertical against the wall so that we could sleep on the floor. And then in the morning we were all in dhotis and tilak and we're just stepping up and down and chanting. And then we had, in the middle of the floor, we had a big wooden board, and on top of there, a big gas stove straight from the kitchen, big one, the gas bottle, and on top of that, a big pot, with khichdi, of course. And this whole thing is going on. And then the lady from the motel, she smelled the spices and she knocked on the door. And then eventually we opened the door. And when we opened the door, she screamed, like, ah! Oh, she screamed at the top of her lungs. Those were different days. Very different. And we went all to the Sankirtan meeting, all in dhotis, and the Sankirtan leader comes in, a big American in a big nylon jacket, blue it was, like Mr. Michelin, and blue jeans, and he walks in, sits down, says to a brahmachari, give me that chadar, takes the saffron chadar, throws it over his jeans as a Sankirtan dhoti, and says, man, we're gonna take over the world. And we said, wow, that's amazing. Things have changed. Things have changed. So I think it's good to make Krishna consciousness relevant, relevant to people.
So we have another question.
I'm sure you.
Yeah, a few more. One here. How to serve Lord Chaitanya internally by our mind, as you have mentioned.
How to serve him internally with our mind. I think that, I look at the mind like a river, and I call it the stream of thoughts, right? And I think in this stream of thoughts, we have to connect the stream of transcendental sound and flow the stream of transcendental sound into our stream of thoughts. And if we do so, then our mind begins to change. Then our stream of thoughts begins to change. So that's how serving Krishna with the mind is connect this stream of transcendental sound and let it flow in our stream of thoughts. In that way, the mind becomes absorbed. And then when we are sufficiently done that and the mind begins to fill up with thoughts of Krishna, then we can turn around and develop so many ideas of how we can present Krishna consciousness. But we have to make sure that that stream of transcendental sound goes into our stream of thoughts.
So another question is for us as devotees reading tarot for living okay?
For a living, tarot, why not? Well, it's not sinful. And you can even bring in Krishna consciousness. I think it's fine. Sure, you got to do something for a living, and better that than so many other jobs. That I mean, when you work in some job and you're working for, yeah, every work is covered by some fault. So, you know, but still it must be done. So reading tarot cards is also is limited. Astrology, it's another form of astrology, tarot cards, and it's oracles, you know. All these things are okay to use as long as it doesn't become the priority in our life. You know, as long as it doesn't take us over. Yeah. But that's with anything. You know, if you're a truck driver, if you become a truck driver, and you just, and that starts to become more important than chanting 16 rounds and being a devotee and so on. Yeah, then you've lost something. If you become a tarot card reader and no longer a Bhagavatam reader, then of course you lost something. So it's no problem, read tarot cards, but first read the Bhagavatam.
Another question, how do we know if we are doing too much or too little service?
Well, you know, over endeavor is always is addressed in the scripture, and over endeavor when our health is damaged, when our sadhana becomes damaged, then we're over endeavoring. When our mental health is becoming disturbed, over endeavoring. So yeah, for that I use my metaphor of the 3 balls. I'm sure you remember it, but if you don't, then I'll remind you. And if you've never heard it, then well, then there's juggling 3 balls. Have you ever juggled 3 balls? It's you know, it takes some practice, but if you do, there's always one you're throwing up in the air. There's one you're about to catch, and there is one in the air, right? So there's one who needs a push, one that's in the air, and one that needs to be caught. So now there's the ball of personal well-being, that means body and mind. There's the ball of our spiritual practices, of our bhajan, of our sadhana, and there's the ball of our service. And these 3, they need to be juggled. And sometimes you have to catch the ball of well-being. Sometimes you have to catch the ball of service. Sometimes you have to catch the ball of, what was it? Service, personal well-being. Oh God. Blackout.
Sadhana.
Huh? What were the 3?
Body and
Sadhana.
mind, spiritual practice, and the last one I lost also.
Yeah. It is the sadhana, it is the well-being, and it is the service. And these 3 you have to juggle and keep in balance. Sadhana, well-being, and service. Thank you. It means it's getting late, huh? It means my brain is getting cooked. I think so.
Okay, maybe
slowly.
One more question, maybe, or
Okay, the last, huh?
make it the last.
Okay, I'm gonna lean back now. Ay. Oh, yes.
How have you learned to feel or see what the need of a person in his or her spiritual life is?
How to learn this, I don't know. It's not so simple, but I guess experience helps, right? Like by experience, by trying to do by trying to live a life in devotional service ourselves, we can see how others are doing, what they should be doing, what they're not doing. So by experience, we can, by our own experience, we can get insights in how to help others, because after all, we're all the same, you know, we're all very similar. We all have, after all, the same human nature and very similar issues. Therefore, it's not so difficult to understand what someone goes through. Obviously, if someone is in the beginning, you really need to chant with other people. Right? That really helps a lot. Right? Later, it's nice to chant alone. Like these days, oh God, I really prefer to chant alone. I don't like to chant in groups, you know, where I have to listen to my nature. Someone in my other ear, and then there's a japa tape on top of it all, and then I have to sit there also and go, can I just chant alone? But in the beginning, it's very important to chant like in association of devotees, because that will really give us a big boost. So like that, things change over time, and one can see where someone is because of experience. Yeah. Okay, this is a 15-minute break, and then I'm gonna hear what the president has to say about the lockdown. Oh gosh. Hey.
Okay, thank you very much, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, you know, I'll just say goodbye to all in a few minutes before I run away. But I thank you all. It was, it's nice to see you all. And I'm really happy to, see the devotees around the world, see the devotees in America. And, not in America, in Germany, sorry. And nice to see. I saw a nice Sri Chaturdasi. It was quite a festival. I saw it was much more than I expected, and it's nice to see that all this is happening, and that I gave a lecture online, and I chanted a kirtan online for a Sringadev. At least I did something. So it's very nice to see you all in Berlin, and hope to that we can somehow or other all meet in person. That would be very nice. And that's to all of you, wherever you are. Hope today will return. Yeah, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hey,
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Gauranga.
Hare
Krishna.
Hey Krishna.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj.
Yeah. How are things in Croatia?
Well, it's going.
Things are good. Akesh, how are you? Oh, now it's Shri Chaitanya.
Yes, we are good, Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Okay, nice. Yes, Hare Krishna in Newcastle.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Hare Krishna.
Okay, Haribol. Very good. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Wow, from Australia.
Hare Krishna Maharaj from Bosnia.
Yeah, Bosnia. You're back in Bosnia.
Yes. Thank you so much.